Human follows alien girl into a forbidden archive, unsealing a record that mentions his name. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. Ethan Carter had never considered himself a man of curiosity, at least not when it came to the unknown. But today was different. Standing before a darkened doorway, a faint hum emanating from within, he could feel something shifting deep inside him. Zara, the alien girl with the mysterious violet eyes, had led him here. A forbidden archive, a place no human was supposed to set foot in. But Zara had insisted, her quiet voice filled with an unspoken urgency. You don't understand, Ethan. This place holds secrets that could change everything for us. For you. The way she said you struck him harder than he expected. He had no idea what she meant, but he couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to take a turn he couldn't predict. Zara stood beside him, her green skin glowing faintly in the low light. Her fingers twitched nervously, but her eyes remained focused. There was something captivating about her, something that made Ethan feel like he was stepping into a story he didn't fully understand. Are you sure this is the right choice? Ethan asked, his voice low, almost hesitant. Zara's lips curled into a small, determined smile. It's the only choice, Ethan. You've seen what's in this archive before, haven't you? Her words hit him like a jolt, though he couldn't recall a single time he had been in the forbidden archive. He nodded slowly, though part of him wanted to back away, to pretend he hadn't heard those words. But why me? Why bring me into this? Zara's expression softened, her alien features unreadable for a moment before she spoke again. Because, Ethan, your name is here. In this archive. It's more than just a record. It's connected to you. At her words, a chill ran down Ethan's spine. His name? In a forbidden archive? This was more than just a mystery, it was something personal, something that tied him to a world he never asked to be a part of. Without another word, Zara reached for the door, her movements fluid and deliberate. As she pushed it open, a rush of cold air swept out, as if the archive itself had been waiting for them to arrive. Ethan followed her in, his heart pounding. The dim light flickered across rows of data terminals and ancient records, the walls lined with thick, dust-covered books that looked as though they hadn't been touched in centuries. It was a place frozen in time. Zara moved quickly, her footsteps silent against the stone floor as she headed towards a central terminal. Ethan followed, his breath steady despite the storm of questions swirling in his mind. What was it about this place? And why was his name on one of its records? As they approached the terminal, Zara's fingers flew across the keys, her focus intense. The screen flickered to life, casting an eerie glow on her face. Here it is, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Ethan stepped closer, peering over her shoulder as the screen displayed a document that sent a wave of dread through him. His name. His full name. And a date he didn't recognize. What does this mean? Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara looked at him, her eyes dark with uncertainty. I don't know yet. But we're about to find out. Ethan stared at the screen, the words flashing before his eyes like they were from a different life. His name, Ethan Carter, stared back at him, but the details beside it made his heart race. The date. The connection to something far deeper than he'd ever known. His mind struggled to process what he was seeing. Zara, standing beside him, her eyes fixed on the screen, broke the silence. This is it, she said softly, almost to herself. Her voice trembled with something that resembled fear but also a kind of awe. This record, Ethan, it's about you. More than just your name. It's tied to something ancient, something much bigger. Ethan felt the air in the room grow thicker, as though the very walls of the forbidden archive were closing in on him. His mind raced, questions swirling with no answers in sight. How could his name be here? And why was it part of something so dangerous, so hidden? He turned to Zara, his voice barely a whisper. What is this? What does it mean? Zara hesitated for a moment, her fingers still hovering above the terminal, as if she too were uncertain of the path ahead. I don't know, she admitted, her voice soft but resolute. But I believe it's been hidden for a reason. And you're meant to find it now. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. This was no ordinary archive. It wasn't just a collection of forgotten knowledge, it was a place where destinies were sealed. His destiny, it seemed, was no exception. We need to dig deeper, Zara continued, her voice steady now. There's more here, more than just your name. We have to know why it's here and what it means for you, for us. As she spoke, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this was all part of a much larger plan. His eyes fell back to the screen, scanning the record for any hint of clarity. The words seemed to blur, but he saw enough. The connection to his past, to something hidden within his lineage, was undeniable. He was being pulled into something much bigger than himself, and somehow, Zara was the key. All right, he said, his voice filled with newfound determination. Let's do it. Let's find out what this is all about. Zara nodded, and together they turned their focus back to the terminal. The data began to stream faster now, as though the archive itself was responding to their will. Ethan could barely keep up with the speed at which the information poured in, but what he could understand chilled him to the bone. The record didn't just contain his name, it contained details of a hidden legacy, a history that linked him to a race of beings he had never imagined. He was connected to them, tied by blood and by fate, to something that had been lost for centuries. The implications were enormous. Zara reached out, her hand gently brushing his arm. Are you okay? She asked, her voice soft, but with an edge of concern. Ethan nodded slowly, his mind still processing the weight of what he had just uncovered. I don't know, Zara, he said, his voice thick with disbelief. I think this changes everything. Zara's eyes softened, and she gave him a reassuring smile, though it didn't quite reach the worry in her eyes. We're in this together, she said, her words steady. And whatever this is, we'll figure it out. Ethan took a deep breath, trying to calm the racing thoughts in his mind. He wasn't sure where this journey would take him, but one thing was certain, he couldn't turn back now. The past had been sealed for a reason, but it was no longer in the shadows. It was right in front of him, and the truth was waiting to be uncovered. Let's keep going, he said, his voice stronger now. We can't stop until we know the whole truth. As they turned back to the terminal, the room seemed to grow quieter, the air heavier with the knowledge that they were about to uncover something that had been hidden for a very long time. Together, they would uncover the secrets of the Forbidden Archive, and nothing would ever be the same again. Ethan felt the weight of the information settling around him like a thick fog. Zara's fingers flew across the terminal, her focused expression unshaken, but Ethan could feel the tension growing between them. The room was filled with an almost eerie stillness, save for the soft hum of the ancient archive's machinery, as if the place itself was holding its breath. The data continued to flood the screen in front of them, each new piece more perplexing than the last. Ethan tried to grasp the magnitude of what he was seeing. His name was there, linked to an event he had no memory of. A series of coordinates, dates, and strange symbols, things that felt too significant to be mere coincidence. Zara paused for a moment, her eye scanning the information on the screen. I think I've found it, she said, her voice steady, though Ethan could hear the underlying tension. This is the record that connects you to everything. To us. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. To us, he echoed, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara nodded slowly, her eyes meeting his. Yes. To your past. To your connection with the Tan Dominion. The words hung in the air like a heavy weight. Ethan had heard of the Tan Dominion before, an ancient empire spanning multiple star systems. But he had never imagined it would have anything to do with him. What does this mean for me? Ethan asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Zara's lips pressed into a thin line as she scrolled through more of the data. It means you have a legacy here, Ethan. A place in their history. A role you never knew about. The room felt colder now, the realization settling in. Zara's eyes softened, and for the first time, there was a hint of vulnerability in her expression. I know this is a lot to take in. But you're not just any human. You're connected to something far bigger than you can understand right now. Something that's been hidden for centuries. Ethan could feel his mind racing, his thoughts tumbling over each other. His whole life, he had been nothing more than a soldier, a man who followed orders without questioning the bigger picture. But now, standing in this forbidden archive with Zara, everything was shifting. He had always wondered why things had never felt quite right, why he always felt like an outsider, even among his own people. Now he knew. His entire existence had been a carefully constructed lie. There was something more to his story, something hidden in the vastness of the universe, something that involved a race of beings he barely understood. As the data continued to flow, Ethan leaned in closer to the screen, his eyes scanning the details. What happens now? He asked, his voice quieter now, resigned. Zara hesitated before answering. We keep going. We find out the truth. We uncover what your role really is. Ethan nodded, his resolve hardening. There was no turning back now. The past had been erased, but it was waiting to be uncovered. And with Zara by his side, he would unravel the mysteries of his own existence. Together, they would unlock the secrets that had been buried in this forbidden archive, no matter the cost. Ethan felt a weight settle on his shoulders as he and Zara sifted through the information in the forbidden archive. The truth was unfolding before them, but each new piece felt heavier than the last. The images on the terminal continued to blur into one another, as if the data itself was trying to overwhelm him. He could see his name in multiple places, tied to ancient events and connections he couldn't quite grasp. He turned to Zara, who was staring at the screen with a focused intensity, her fingers still moving rapidly. Zara, Ethan began, his voice softer now, weighed down by the magnitude of the situation. What exactly does all this mean for me? Why is my name here, connected to all of this? Zara paused, her fingers hovering over the terminal. She let out a quiet sigh before turning to face him. I don't fully understand it either, Ethan, she said, her voice steady but laced with uncertainty. But what I do know is this, your name, your bloodline, they're tied to something far more powerful than we've ever known. The Tan Dominion, the one you've heard of, they've known about this for centuries. And now, it seems, so have you. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. The Tan Dominion, an empire that spanned across galaxies, ruled by beings so ancient and powerful that their mere mention was enough to send a shiver down anyone's spine. And now, somehow, he was part of it. Why didn't I know any of this? Ethan asked, his voice shaking with frustration. Why wasn't I told? Zara's expression softened, and she stepped closer to him, her eyes filled with a quiet understanding. It's not something they wanted you to know, she said gently. There are forces at work that keep certain truths hidden. The archives, they've been sealed for a reason. Your connection to them was buried. And now, you're the key to unlocking it all. Ethan looked down at the terminal, his mind racing. The implications of what Zara was saying were overwhelming. He was connected to an empire, an ancient, powerful empire, and yet, until now, he had been living his life in ignorance. But now that the truth was in front of him, there was no turning back. Zara's voice broke through his thoughts. Ethan, she said, her tone more urgent now. Look at this. She pointed to a new set of data that had appeared on the screen. Ethan leaned in, his eyes scanning the text. The record was clearer now, detailing a specific event that linked him directly to the Tan Dominion. A bloodline that had been lost for centuries, a role that had been waiting for someone to step into it. His mind swirled with questions. What did this mean for his future? What role was he supposed to play in all of this? Zara took a step back, her expression unreadable. This is only the beginning, Ethan, she said, her voice heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. There's so much more to uncover. But now, you have the choice. You can walk away, go back to the life you've known. Or you can step into your future and face whatever comes next. Ethan's gaze shifted from Zara to the terminal, the words still flickering on the screen. The future stretched out before him, unknown and uncertain. But one thing was clear, he couldn't walk away. Not now. Not when he was so deeply entangled in this. I'm in, Ethan said, his voice firm, a new sense of resolve rising within him. I want to know the truth. Whatever it is, I'm ready to face it. Zara nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. Good, she said softly. Then let's get started. The silence in the room seemed to deepen as the weight of their decision settled in. Together, they would uncover the mysteries of the Tan Dominion, and Ethan would finally learn the truth about his past and the future that awaited him. Ethan and Zara spent the next few hours in silence, the air heavy with the weight of their discovery. The terminal continued to hum softly as they scrolled through more of the ancient records, uncovering details that only deepened the mystery of Ethan's connection to the Tan Dominion. He felt like a stranger to himself, as if the very fabric of his life was being unraveled, revealing truths that were far beyond his understanding. But despite the confusion, there was a sense of purpose growing within him, a feeling that he was finally on the path to something that had always eluded him. Zara's voice broke the silence. Ethan, look at this. He turned to see her pointing to a new set of data on the screen. His heart skipped a beat as he read the words. It was a set of coordinates, more detailed than anything they had uncovered before. These coordinates weren't just random locations, they were places connected to the Tan Dominion, places that held the keys to unlocking the truth of his legacy. These locations, Ethan said, his voice thick with realization. They lead to the heart of the Dominion, don't they? Zara nodded, her eyes focused on the screen. Yes. These are the places where the records were hidden, where your connection to the Dominion was buried. We have to go there. Ethan. We have to see what's really been hidden. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. The thought of venturing into the heart of the Tan Dominion, a place of unimaginable power and ancient secrets, both terrified and intrigued him. But how do we even get there? He asked, his voice shaking slightly. The Dominion is vast. How are we supposed to navigate all of this? Zara looked at him, a spark of determination in her eyes. We don't have to do it alone. There are others who know the way. We just have to find them. Ethan didn't know whether to feel comforted or more anxious. But one thing was certain, he couldn't turn back now. Not when the truth was so close. All right, he said, his voice steady despite the uncertainty. Let's find them. Let's get to the heart of the Dominion. As Zara began to work on locating their next step, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the edge of something far bigger than they could comprehend. The truth was within reach, and yet, the journey ahead promised to challenge everything he thought he knew about himself and the universe. The room seemed to close in around them, the silence pressing against him as the screen flickered with the next set of coordinates. It was time to move forward, to leave the safety of the archive behind and step into a new world, one where the answers to his past and his future awaited. With Zara at his side, Ethan felt a flicker of hope that he could face whatever came next. They had uncovered the first layer of a mystery that had been buried for centuries, and now, it was up to them to uncover the rest. Ethan and Zara spent the next few days preparing for their journey into the heart of the Tan Dominion. The information they had uncovered from the Forbidden Archive was still fresh in their minds, each new discovery only adding to the weight of what they were about to face. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this journey would change him forever. The unknown stretched out before them like an endless expanse, full of mysteries, dangers, and potential answers about his past. Zara had managed to track down an old contact, someone who knew the way to the first location on their list. She had been quiet about the details, but Ethan could tell it was someone important, someone who might be able to help them navigate the complex and dangerous world of the Tan Dominion. This is it, Zara said one evening as they prepared to leave the safe confines of the archive. This is where it all begins. Ethan nodded, adjusting the straps on his gear. His mind raced with questions. What would they find at the first location? What did it mean for him, for his connection to the Dominion? His thoughts were interrupted as Zara stood in the doorway, her eyes serious. "Are you ready for this?" she asked. Ethan hesitated for a moment before nodding. "I don't think I have a choice." "I'm ready." Zara gave him a small, reassuring smile before turning to leave. The journey was long, the path through unfamiliar territory difficult to navigate. They traveled in silence for the most part, only speaking when necessary. The world around them seemed to stretch endlessly, vast and unforgiving. As they neared their destination, Ethan could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. The first coordinates had led them to an abandoned outpost, a place that seemed to be long forgotten by the Dominion. The ruins stretched out before them, the once mighty structures now weathered by time and neglect. The air was thick with the scent of decay and dust, and the distant hum of energy systems that had long since powered down echoed in the background. Zara led the way, her movements confident despite the eerie silence that surrounded them. Ethan followed closely, trying to steady his breath and keep his nerves in check. This was it, the moment they had been preparing for. The first step toward uncovering the truth about his past. "It's here," Zara said, her voice breaking the silence as they reached the entrance of the outpost. She paused for a moment, then turned to Ethan. "This is where everything changes. Whatever happens inside, we can't turn back." Ethan took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. "Let's go." As they entered the darkened halls of the outpost, the temperature dropped, and the sense of foreboding grew stronger. The walls were lined with strange symbols, the markings of a long-lost civilization. They had no idea what lay ahead, but one thing was certain, the answers they were looking for were inside. The deeper they went, the more the air seemed to thicken, as though the building itself was alive, breathing, waiting. They stopped at the center of the outpost, where a large pedestal stood, covered in dust and debris. A faint glow emanated from beneath the rubble, and Zara carefully reached forward to clear the debris. Beneath it lay a small, ancient device, its surface etched with symbols Ethan couldn't understand. Zara took a deep breath and slowly reached for the device. "This is it," she said, her voice steady but filled with anticipation. As her fingers made contact with the device, a low hum filled the room, and the air seemed to pulse with energy. Ethan took a step back, watching as the device activated. The lights flickered on, casting eerie shadows across the room. The walls seemed to shift, and for a moment, Ethan felt as though he was no longer in the present, but in some forgotten past, a time when the Dominion was at its height. The device glowed brighter, and then, with a sudden surge of energy, a holographic image appeared before them. Ethan's heart skipped a beat as the image of a towering, regal figure materialized before him. It was a figure he had never seen before, but something about it felt familiar, like a distant memory. The figure spoke, its voice deep and resonant. "Welcome, Ethan Carter. Your journey has just begun." Ethan stood frozen, staring at the holographic figure that had just materialized in front of him. The deep, resonant voice of the figure echoed in the still air of the abandoned outpost. "Welcome, Ethan Carter. Your journey has just begun." The words seemed to hang in the room, charged with a weight he couldn't fully comprehend. Zara stepped closer, her eyes narrowing as she studied the figure. "What is this?" Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper, his heart pounding in his chest. "Who are you?" The figure's image flickered for a moment, as if adjusting to the atmosphere, before it spoke again. "I am a remnant of the Tan Dominion's past, a guardian of the secrets long buried. And you, Ethan Carter, are destined to uncover those secrets. Your bloodline is tied to the Dominion, to its rise and its fall." Ethan's mind raced, his thoughts a blur. A guardian of the Dominion's past? His bloodline tied to their rise and fall? He hadn't asked for any of this. He had simply stumbled upon an ancient archive, and now he was being told that his very existence was part of something far bigger than he had ever imagined. Zara, sensing his confusion, spoke up. "What does it mean? What role does Ethan play in all of this?" The figure's gaze shifted toward her, and for a moment, there was an unsettling silence. Ethan Carter's role is more important than even he realizes. The Dominion is not just a distant empire, it is a living force, and Ethan's connection to it will shape the future of both his people and the Tan Dominion. The word sent a chill through Ethan. What future? What are you talking about? The figure paused, and the room seemed to grow colder, the air thick with anticipation. The Dominion secrets were locked away, hidden in places like this, to prevent the chaos that would ensue if they were ever revealed. But now, the time has come. The Dominion's bloodline must be restored. Ethan Carter, you are the key. Ethan took a step back, his breath coming faster. I'm the key? How? I don't even know who I am in all of this. The figure's expression remained unreadable, but its tone softened. Your name, your existence, is not an accident. You were chosen long before you ever knew. You are the heir to a legacy that has been lost to time. It is your destiny to restore balance, to bring the Dominion back to its rightful place in the universe. Ethan shook his head, trying to process the words. He had always been just a soldier, a man with no real purpose beyond following orders. Now, he was being told that he was tied to an ancient empire, that his very existence had meaning on a galactic scale. Zara's voice cut through his thoughts. So, what do we do now? What does he have to do to unlock this legacy? The figure's holographic eye seemed to focus on Zara. The path will not be easy. There are forces that wish to prevent the restoration of the Dominion, forces that will stop at nothing to keep the past buried. Ethan must face them, and he must understand the full scope of his heritage. Only then can he fulfill his role. Zara looked at Ethan, her expression determined. We're in this together, right? She asked, her voice soft but unwavering. Ethan nodded slowly, his mind still racing. Yeah, he said, his voice stronger now. We're in this together. The figure's form began to fade, its voice lingering in the air. The first step lies ahead. Seek out the lost temples of the Dominion, and the knowledge you need will be revealed. But beware, for the path is fraught with danger, and only those worthy will survive. With those final words, the holographic figure vanished, leaving only silence in its wake. Ethan stood there, his mind reeling with the weight of the revelation. He wasn't just a man anymore. He was part of something much larger. The truth of his past was within reach, but the journey ahead was filled with unknowns. With Zara by his side, Ethan took a deep breath. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear, he couldn't back down now. The journey to uncover his true legacy had begun, and there was no turning back. Ethan and Zara left the outpost with a sense of urgency, the weight of the holographic figure's words still heavy in the air between them. The first step toward uncovering the truth had been taken, but now they had to follow through. As they made their way through the desolate landscape, the path ahead seemed both clear and uncertain. The coordinates from the device led them to a remote region of the galaxy, a place marked by ancient ruins and long-forgotten temples. The Tan Dominion had once flourished here, but now it lay in ruins, its secrets buried beneath centuries of dust and decay. Are you sure we're on the right path? Ethan asked, his voice filled with doubt as he adjusted the pack on his back. Zara glanced at him, her eyes filled with determination. I'm sure, she said. The record was clear. We follow the coordinates, and we'll find the knowledge we need. Ethan nodded, but the unease in his chest wouldn't subside. He didn't know what to expect when they reached the temples, but he knew one thing for certain, whatever they found would change everything. The journey was long and exhausting, and as they approached their destination, Ethan couldn't help but wonder what awaited them. The ruins stood before them, towering and imposing, their ancient stone walls covered in creeping vines. It was a place that felt timeless, as if it had been waiting for someone to come and uncover its secrets. Zara led the way, her footsteps sure and steady as she moved toward the entrance of the largest temple. The air was thick with silence, the only sound the soft crunch of their boots against the dust-covered ground. When they reached the entrance, Zara paused and turned to Ethan. This is it, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The answers we've been looking for are inside. Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline. He wasn't sure what to expect, but he knew they couldn't turn back now. Together, they entered the temple. The interior was even more awe-inspiring than the outside. The walls were covered in intricate carvings, depicting scenes of ancient battles, rituals, and the rise and fall of empires. It was a place steeped in history, and yet, it felt abandoned, forgotten by time. As they ventured deeper into the temple, Ethan could feel the air growing heavier, charged with an energy he couldn't explain. The silence was overwhelming, and the deeper they went, the more it seemed as though the temple was alive, watching them. Zara stopped in front of a large stone pedestal at the center of the room. She reached out, her fingers brushing against the surface, and the stone began to hum softly. "This is it," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "This is where the knowledge is hidden." Ethan stepped forward, his heart pounding. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This was what they had come for. The answers were within reach. Zara took a deep breath and pressed her hand firmly against the pedestal. The hum grew louder, and the room seemed to shift around them. Ethan watched in awe as the stone began to glow, its ancient markings coming to life. The air crackled with energy as the pedestal opened, revealing a hidden compartment beneath it. Inside, there was a small, glowing object, its surface covered in strange symbols. Zara carefully reached into the compartment and pulled it out, her hand steady despite the gravity of the moment. "This is it," she said, her voice filled with awe. "This is the key to everything." Ethan stared at the object in her hands, his mind racing. What was it? And what did it mean for his future? The temple around them seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next move. Zara turned to him, her eyes filled with resolve. "This is the beginning of your legacy, Ethan. We've uncovered the truth. Now we need to unlock it." Ethan's heart raced as he took the first step into the unknown. The truth was finally within reach, and he knew that everything was about to change. Together, they would uncover the secrets of the Tan Dominion and the role Ethan was destined to play in its future. Ethan watched in awe as Zara held the glowing object, the light casting strange shadows around them. The room seemed to pulse with energy, the hum from the pedestal still vibrating in the air. The object in Zara's hands was small, no bigger than the palm of her hand, but it radiated a power that Ethan could feel deep in his bones. "What is it?" Ethan asked, his voice low, as if afraid to disturb the fragile moment. Zara glanced at him, her face a mix of wonder and determination. "This," she said softly, "is the key to unlocking your legacy. The Dominion's history, its power, its future, it's all here. This is what they kept hidden, what they didn't want you to know." Ethan took a deep breath, trying to steady his racing heart. His entire life had led to this point, and now, standing in this ancient temple with Zara, he felt the weight of it all. "How do we use it?" he asked, his voice tinged with both excitement and fear. Zara studied the object closely, her fingers tracing the intricate symbols etched into its surface. "We need to find the right place to activate it," she said. "There's a chamber, deep within the Tan Dominion, where this will reveal its true power. The coordinates we found before, they're only the beginning. The real answers lie ahead." Ethan nodded, though his mind was still spinning. The Dominion. His connection to it. The destiny that now seemed to be unfolding before him. It was too much to take in at once, but there was no turning back. He had already chosen this path. "Let's go," he said, his voice firm. Zara gave him a small, reassuring smile. "We're not far now," she said, leading the way deeper into the temple. The air grew colder as they moved through the darkened corridors, the only light coming from the glowing object in Zara's hand. The silence was heavy, the weight of their mission pressing down on them. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, though there was no one else around. It was as if the temple itself was aware of their presence, aware of what they were about to do. They reached a chamber at the far end of the temple, its entrance guarded by two massive stone doors. Zara approached the doors, her hand outstretched as if sensing something. "This is it," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "The chamber where everything changes." With a soft groan, the doors slowly creaked open, revealing a vast, dark room beyond. The walls were lined with ancient symbols, and in the center of the room stood an altar, its surface glowing faintly in the dim light. Zara stepped forward, her eyes focused on the altar. "Place it here," she instructed, her voice filled with reverence. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then carefully placed the glowing object on the altar. The moment his fingers left it, the object began to hum, the sound growing louder, filling the room. The altar's surface began to shift, the symbols glowing brighter as a hidden mechanism activated. The ground beneath them trembled, and the air seemed to charge with energy. Ethan's heart raced as the altar split open, revealing a hidden chamber beneath it. Zara stepped back, her eyes wide with awe. "This is it," she breathed. "This is where the secrets of the Dominion are kept." Ethan looked down into the darkened chamber, his pulse quickening. The path ahead was uncertain, but the truth was now within reach. Together, they would unlock the final pieces of the puzzle that had been set in motion long before they ever knew. Ethan turned to Zara, his face set with determination. "Let's finish this." Without another word, they descended into the hidden chamber, the door closing behind them, and the journey into the heart of the Tan Dominion truly began.